Good morning everybody, Sammy Thunder here. Welcome back to the channel. This video we're going to be celebrating Christy Mathewson's birthday. I'm going to show some cards, show some really cool photos that I found, and kind of go from there. This day, August 12th, back in 1880, Christy Mathewson was born in Factoryville, Pennsylvania. Like any young kid, played a lot of sports. Baseball, basketball, and football. Had a number of siblings, including a brother who would eventually try to play professional baseball, but the Christy and Nicholas is the son's name. Nicholas's father was adamant that he stay away. He's too young to play professional sports. We'll get into that later. Christy went to the Keystone Academy as well as Bucknell University, was a star athlete, scholar athlete, played basketball, football, and baseball. Obviously, his baseball talents were observed, and this coach was focused on that being his direction. It was known that Christy was very much more of loved football more than baseball, it seemed early on. Obviously, that would change when Christy noticed his talents were really paying off and his hard work was paying off. Prior to going to the Keystone Academy or Bucknell, or actually maybe even during that as well, Christy would play semi-pro baseball in the summer to make extra money. His parents were pretty well off, but they wanted to instill a work ethic in Christy, and so Christy would play semi-pro baseball, earn some money along the way, and use that to cover his expenses. I believe that his board was covered, but he had to cover everything else. His playing skills were noticed when he would sign a contract to play for the Norfolk Team in Virginia, where he had an incredible year. I believe he went 20-2, or I believe something like that. The New York Giants, looking for talent, were seeing him play and offered him a contract of $1,500. This would be in 1900. So they paid the money to the Norfolk Team, and Christy ended up having we went 0-3 and had a miserable start. The Giants were desperate to get him back to Norfolk and to get their money back. However, later on, the Cincinnati Reds picked him up off the roster again. And in December, it looks like December 15th, as I'm reading right now, the Reds quickly traded Christy back to the Giants for Amos Rusi. What a trade that would end up turning out to be. Christy Mathewson played over his career majority of the time with the Giants, and it goes without saying, was their star pitcher. Actually, in the very beginning of his career with the Giants, Iron Joe McGinnity was really the workhorse, and Mathewson kind of was the number 2 pitcher almost, because John McGraw, the manager of the Giants, was very adamant on working his pitchers very hard. And Joe McGinnity, known as Iron Joe for a reason, pitched more innings than Christy. However, Christy and Joe were a great duo during that time frame. Christy really was coming into his own and becoming a star pitcher. And it was, Joe, it ultimately switched where Joe started losing steam and Christy started kind of rising up. For those that don't know, Christy Mathewson is known for having his famous pitch, kind of like a screwball, but it was known as the fadeaway. And it was a devastating pitch that would kind of fade away from hitters with a late break. It looks like, based on Wikipedia, that he learned this from a teammate named Dave Williams back in 1898. All in all, I've been reading a book on Christy Mathewson's life, still working on it, still learning more about it, and it's a really fascinating book. I'll show you the cover. It's Maddie, an American Hero by Ray Robinson. It's really written well to really understand and just kind of sink into the story. The initial chapters kind of cover his early upbringing, and then after that, each chapter goes through, it seems like it goes through either a postseason or goes through in a single season, and still working on leading up to his. I'm probably at 1913 of his career, based on the book. It says here the fadeaway pitch was also learned from Rube Foster. I don't know. It's possible that is true because Rube Foster did spend spring training. I'm not sure how many years. It's not really mentioned, but he did spend a spring training with the Giants at McGraw's expense to help with pitching. And I know that McGraw wanted to hire Rube Foster almost as like a pitching instructor to help, but due to just segregation, it was not going to happen. So, but this book's a really good book. I really enjoyed it, and I figured what I'll do is these are some photos from the book. These photos I believe are in the Hall of Fame. That's where they're taken from. So let's take a look. So this I'll start a little too late here. Let's go back. So this is Christy Mathewson as a young boy. Let me see if I can manually control it. During his early days. This is with, I think, the Keystone Academy football team. Christy Mathewson, let me go back. I can't remember exactly which one. I think he's on the middle row to the left. The basketball team, I believe he is on the far left, front row. Baseball team at Bucknell University. He is the top row. He is the second from the right. Classic photo of his early days with the Giants. That's with his wife Jane. Great photo of the Mathewson and McGraw with their wives. I believe this photo was taken of the Giants. It looks like they're eating lobster, but it's hard to tell based on the photo. This was taken before their trip. I don't know if they're in Cuba or on their way to Cuba. Great photo of Joe Wood and Christy Mathewson together. I can't remember the year. I was just kind of grabbing photos quickly. Great shot of Maddie. This is I've seen this pose kind of taken in photos that are sold as cards and postcards. It's just a classic of his. The die cut as well. This is Christy with his son Christy Jr. And in the book, it mentioned that Christy Jr. idolized his father, wanted to pitch like his father. Classic of Christy Mathewson and Ty Cobb. You can see in the caption below. This is taken at the World Series game in 1911. Now, I don't know if these two ever played against each other in an exhibition game. They came close to playing against each other in the World Series, and it is known that Ty Cobb wished he could have played against Mathewson in the biggest game or the biggest series of the year, obviously the World Series. But I don't know if they ever played an exhibition. It was not mentioned in the book, at least not yet. Here's Christy Mathewson in the late years of his career, having a catch. It probably was when he was managing the Cincinnati Reds, as you can see. Late in his career, I want to say this is I don't know if it says it anywhere, 1915 or 1916, Mordecai Brown versus Christy Mathewson. They had some great bouts in the regular seasons in the early days, just some great pitching duels. And, Mordecai Brown, Three-Finger Brown was a winner in some. I think Mathewson was a winner in some, so it was pretty balanced. And finally, Christy Mathewson in his uniform during World War I. Sadly, I thought I had the photo, but I guess I don't have it here. There's one other photo where he was taken when he was living in Saranac Lake, New York, recovering or going through recovery for the mustard gas incident that he unfortunately took in, and it contracted tuberculosis, which ultimately led to his demise, but at 45 years old. But just a great story. Still learning about him through this book. I have I'm about a little more than 50% done with the book. And a lot of the book spends time focusing on the relationship that he had with John McGraw and his wife and McGraw's wife, and just they lived together in this giant apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It wasn't until I think Mathewson moved out eventually, and him and his wife found their own place. I can't remember exactly where. I think it might have been somewhere in the same area, not too far. It might have been more like Washington Heights area, close to the Polo Grounds. But I did want to share some cards with you guys. I mean, pretty much my entire Mathewson collection I brought out just to share with you guys, and I'll show some of the stuff that I got more recently. This is the Piedmont T206 Mathewson portrait card. This one I got at the National, as you guys may know, from William Chappell's table. This one I got at the Philly show, Centennial stamp from 1939. I thought this is a really cool item. Got this at the Philly show. I want to say the dealer's name is Alex. I know that Brian Roth can fill in on that because I know he set up near this guy, and this guy had nothing but pre-war stuff. I'm hoping he'll be at the next Philly show in September. He had a really good table of really good stuff. This one I got from Woody at the Philly show. Got this one raw, and I graded it. I knew it was going to get, what it got, the authentic 1909 S74 silks. Missing the back. Makes sense, obviously. Here's a different strip card. 1921 W516 set. Hand cut. I like the aesthetic of this strip card. The only thing I don't like, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is the fact that it shows on the bottom X giant picture. I mean, I know he retired at this point, but it could have been nice to have something else except the word X on it. Maybe not legendary, but great giant picture or something different. Here's the back. Here's the. Let me see if I can get this in focus for you guys. Well, it's the 1946-47 Propaganda Montiel, Christy Mathewson. There we go, much better. Got this one off of a Discord group I belong to. It was being offered, I think, paid $300 for it. These are very, very thin sheets, very delicate. They're from, I think, Cuba. But to find this in the shape that it's in, no tears, no loss, some mold or stains, can live with that. First Mathewson card ever is the won this on eBay. 1909 Piedmont Cigarettes, Christy Mathewson white cap with some paper loss, and somebody wrote a big W on there. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of glad that I graded this card when I did, and I prefer just having the letter A instead of having the authentic and the reason why. It's clearly, most cards you can really determine the reason, but I kind of like the way these slabs looked with just the A and not the whole authentic. 1967 Retorado set, famous for the Jackie Robinson, the Sandy Koufax, amongst other cards. But this one I picked up on a Facebook group. I was tagged by the Fish family, Brian Fish. There was a guy who was selling this. This is a really fantastic copy. tough to find these without paper loss on the back. As you can see, these were generally posted in or glued in photo albums in Venezuela. So to find this in this shape, it's a very high graded 2. Pat Quinn mentioned in the interview that I had with him that these cards were, they weren't really cared for, as they were delicate matters, but they were, they were put underneath houses because they didn't. Pat was saying that they didn't have basements like we do here in the United States. So for storage, they would just put extra things underneath the house, and of course, with natural disasters like floods and rainfall, just the whole 9 yards, any sort of weather condition could affect these cards. So that's why Venezuelan cards are just, you see them in the condition that they are, is because one, they were posted in photo books with glue, and the second thing is that these cards were not as cared for. And so when you find a really good looking Venezuelan, that's special. That's really special. Now we get to the big pieces. This is one of the bigger pieces I found early on, the 1912 81 silk set. A lot of big names in this set. But they took the classic photo that they've used in other cards, other tobacco cards of Christy. This one has some stains on it. I'm not sure what the stains are. I would assume that they're like tobacco stains, but who knows? Got the number on the top, 108. And it's just the back here. So this is a cool piece. This is only, as far as I know, only one has been graded with SGC. I don't know about PSA, but this is I want to get this reslabbed in the latest slab with SGC. It's an authentic. This has been sold a number of times, but the schedule, 1913 schedule, and it's endorsed by, or Maddie's endorsing Durham Duplex Razor, and the big thing is, will he make good this year? And you can see Maddie's endorsement on the middle section of the schedule. The back shows the schedule, as well as, let's see what it says here. Like a little trivia question there on the top. This one came from Orlando with a trade. 1949 Leaf Premiums. I know he has one in a 5, and he had this extra one in a 3, and we made a trade. Pretty cool pieces here. Great looking photo. Baseball Immortals. The old master of hurlers, one of baseball's most beloved pitchers. Served with Muggsy McGraw's Giants team from 1900-1916. Fun fact, John McGraw hated that nickname, Muggsy. I don't know if he hated the Little Napoleon nickname, but he definitely hated Muggsy. And you don't want to piss off John McGraw. That goes without saying. Got this one at the Philly show from American Pastimes table. I think it was Richard. Richard is the dealer. I'm a sucker for perforated cards, which is why I'm hoping at some point in my life I can afford the American die cut Mathewson, which is going up in auction, I think, with one of the big auction houses. I saw it at the National. But this is as close as I can get. The Connie Mack All-Stars, Christy Mathewson perforated card. And this one, despite the paper loss on the corners, still had the perforation of Mathewson still attached. See on the back there. And finally, most recent piece is the Pinkerton Christy Mathewson scorecard back in a 3. Highest known grade with SGC in terms of scorecards, scorecard backs. This set, if you don't know, came in 3 variations. You can get the scorecard back, you could get the blank back, or you can get a, what was the other one? Like a postcard back. Scorecard back, I think people liked the most, just because you have a little some baseball flair on the back to really kind of give this to kind of uplift its premise as being a baseball card. So this is my most recent purchase, along with the portrait that I got. So start with the portrait, end with the Pinkerton. But hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm still reading this book, and again, I'll show the cover in case you guys want to see it. Maddie, an American Hero. It's a great book. I really enjoy it, and I'm still working on it, about 60% of the way through. So thank you guys for watching. I know this is a long video, but if you skipped around, cool. Hope you enjoyed it. So I will check back in with you guys this week. We'll definitely be doing the cardboard and cold ones at the end of the week, and we'll have some other stuff along the way. So enjoy, everybody. Take care.